Speaker as well.
Call the meeting to order. Mrs. Hubley, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Albright, would you read the mission statement? Oh, she doesn't have it. Oh, that's right, just a hearing, so. Okay. Mission statement's not necessary tonight.
Your speaker's on. 3 dots.
Turn the meeting over to the superintendent for the
You're not muted.
energy performance contract project hearing.
Just
Thank
this
you,
one.
Frederick. So welcome, everybody. Tonight is to give you some information around our energy performance contract project.
This is in addition to the capital project that the voters had approved last year.
I'm going
I'm going to ask you to there are echo here. If you're not muted at home, please do mute your computers as well. Thank you. So some of the things we're going to be talking about tonight, I'm going to introduce you to the brains behind the operation. What is an energy performance contract? What's it going to entail? What's the scope of the project? The financial piece of it, we're going to talk about, and when the vote is going to vote.
So the ballot will look very similar to the ballots that you see whenever you're voting. So there'll be the instructions at the top. The proposition, though, is worded in a little bit different way. So I'm going to just read the proposition, I'm going to explain it a little bit. So resolved that the Board of Education of the New York Mills Union Free School District is hereby authorized to request additional state aid for energy savings contract improvements under an energy savings performance contract separately authorized by the Board of Education.
Yeah, he sees
The energy savings contract requires additional voter approval to be eligible for additional enhanced state building aid. What that essentially means is the board has adopted and decided to go forward with an energy performance contract. It made sense both for our instructional purposes, it makes sense for the environment. So an energy performance contract, and our experts will go into more detail, but the piece and why we're going out to the voters is our aid back on every project is about 65%. With voter approval, we receive an additional 10%, so it would be roughly 75% of the cost would be returned. So this is why it's so important for you to be on the call, and I appreciate you doing that. And so this is why we're also trying to explain why we are doing the energy performance contract. So at this time, I'm going to introduce the two experts who can talk a lot more about it. So Brian Manning, who's Vice President of Titchkent Bay Architects. That architect firm is our district architect. And Eugene Waldbauer, who's the energy executive for Danforth and ESCO, and he's going to explain a little bit more about that. Gentlemen?
Good evening, thank you for having us. I'm Brian Manning with Titchkent Bay Architects. And up there on the left. Florida?
Just lost us. Just lost.
Left, great, okay. So under for an energy service company, ESCO is headquartered in upstate New York, which is Eugene Waldbauer's company, Danforth. And I'll turn it over to him as far as explaining more of what they do.
Okay, I'm Eugene Waldbauer, Energy Executive with the John W. Danforth Company. Also with us tonight remotely is Scott Jansen. He is the manager of our Energy Engineering Department. He's in our Albany office. I'm in our Syracuse office. Danforth is an energy services company in ESCO. We've been in business in upstate New York, based in Buffalo for 135 years. Our headquarters office is still in Buffalo after all these years. Over the years, we've added offices in Albany, Syracuse, and Rochester. We work predominantly in upstate New York. It's rare in our history to go outside of the boundaries of New York State, And we say we're a one-stop solutions provider for energy projects because not only do we develop the project, but we have in-house energy engineers, we have mechanical engineers, we have lighting designers, and our mechanical designers, and we have installers for most of what goes into the project. Most other energy services companies subcontract out up to 100% of the project. So you're getting a lot more quality, control on quality with us, and of course you get a lower cost because we're not just hiring other people and marking that up. Lighting expertise, mechanical expertise, most of these projects are lighting and mechanical work, and that's what we do. And we've been in these businesses for 135 years. High performance, no compromise, sounds like a marketing thing, but this is actually something that comes up in our offices every day with our project managers. Last year, Danforth did almost 900 projects and service projects in upstate New York, and every one of them, quality is number one. That's always the driving force, and it's always talked about in our offices. You want to go back, please?
Sure. So part of the EPC is this project is scoped out to be $1.33 million project size. And based on that, how we came up to that number is we did an audit on the building with Danforth, and discussing with the facilities and with Dr. Shalmadine, we decided to focus on the school building, Beekman Gym, and the bus garage building. Now, this whole portion of the project has already been approved by the board, and what we're asking for is an additional 10% state aid, as Dr. Shalmadine has explained, above and beyond what your standard building aid is for. Now, under the process of using an EPC and an ESCO, this does not require anything for bonds, insurance, or notes. This is all financed within the project itself. And with that, you have to go through and process with New York State under the New York State Energy Law, Article 9. And then the funded guaranteed savings, what basically that is we're putting a certain number of dollars into the project, and from that, you get a certain amount of dollar savings out of the project afterwards that essentially funds the project in the long run. The New York State Education Department in Albany oversees the project as it would for any capital outlay or any capital project. We still put together a set of specifications and drawings, submit them in under review and approval, and they maintain that we're doing it according to energy code, building code, and life safety. And within that section, they also have an audit of what our projected savings would be. And that is more of what Eugene does better than I.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, you'll hear some recurring themes tonight on how this is financed and paid for and the financials of it, and also the actual scope that's in the project. So these are the core pieces of scope. There's actually 13 main measures that we're doing within the project. A lot of them aren't real exciting, they just save energy. These were things that we were told the district wanted, was lighting upgrades, mechanical upgrades, and control system upgrades, and we'll get into more detail on each of these as we move ahead. Lighting in the classroom, of course, the thing on the right is an air conditioning unit on the roof. That's a picture of the rusty old broken unit that's actually here. We're changing out 15 of those. And then the computer is actually a computer screen of the electronic control system that operates your heating and cooling within the district, and that's old and obsolete. We'll get into more detail on that one also as we move ahead. So there's a lot of key phrases or words in here. Reduce our energy consumption throughout the district, and then increase revenue through state aid. I'll kind of keep talking about that because sometimes it's hard to get your head around how you actually make money by doing a project within the district. Pays for itself through the energy savings and the maintenance savings that it creates, and it creates positive cash flow into the district. We'll get into that as we move ahead. The infrastructure upgrades, the controls, that's the electronic system that controls the heating and cooling system in the buildings, and the mechanical system, that's the rusty rooftop. There's 15 of those that we're replacing. Those are the infrastructure things behind the scenes. We'll talk about them in the next slide. Lighting we can talk about now. Lighting's the thing that you see. We're told lighting is important to upgrade to the district. You only have a little bit of LED lighting in the district right now. By the prime time this project is done, every single light in the district will be LED. Your existing light fixtures that are fluorescent, they're in good shape. They've been taken care of well, they've been maintained well, they haven't beat on. So we don't have to replace them and spend money to replace those. We can retrofit your existing light fixtures, we can upgrade them per SED guidelines and SED requirements to LED. Your classrooms, you have smart boards in classrooms. To avoid glare on those smart boards, we're putting in dimming switches in those classrooms where we're putting new lights in. That'll eliminate any glare. They can dim it down or turn the lights completely off. And then exterior wall packs. Those are the lights that are attached to the sides of your buildings. We're going to replace every one of those with new modern LED fixtures. They'll all be consistent throughout the district. Now we're into those infrastructure items, the two main scope items in infrastructure, the cooling systems. You have 15 of these rooftop condensing units. They're at the end of their life. You spend quite a bit of money repairing them and replacing them. I'll say kind of a constant problem here because of their age. And they also use an old obsolete refrigerant called R22. It's been illegal for quite some time in the world to manufacture R22 refrigerant. So repairing these things and getting parts for them is getting really, really expensive. So it's time to upgrade and go to modern equipment with modern refrigerant for the foreseeable future. Aside from the pieces on the roof, when you replace that rooftop piece, you also have to replace the part that carries all that, I'll say cool refrigerant for lack of a better description, to each classroom. And then there's a cooling coil in the classroom. It's the invisible stuff you don't see behind the box under the window. There's a cooling coil in there. We're replacing that coil and then the line up to the roof and then that unit itself. So that's the mechanical system, those 15 units being replaced with modern equipment. Now we're into the control system. If you see the computer picture here, it's an electronic network that goes throughout your whole district. It turns on fans and it opens steam valves and it closes switches. It controls everything from that central computer. The system you have is nearly 20 years old. It's old, it's obsolete, it costs a lot to maintain and it costs a lot to repair and replace parts and pieces. So as part of this project, we're completely upgrading every one of those electronic controllers that's throughout the district. And additionally, you actually have pneumatic controls still in this district. That's a very old technology where you actually have compressed air that goes through a tube to a switch to turn something on or off, or it's compressed air through a tube to push a valve open or push the valve closed so you get a different amount of heat and cooling. It's old, it's obsolete, it's not real energy efficient, so we're going to get rid of that. And all of that will go away and become electronic control. So everything will be accessible from the computer. Beekman Gym right now, you don't know what's going on in Beekman Gym as far as temperature or heating systems running in the middle of the winter. But with this electronic control, we'll tie that building into the computer system and you'll be able to look remotely. And speaking of remotely, system access, instead of having one computer in the school district where your facilities folks need to go to figure out what's going on in the building or look at the system electronically, you'll now have remote access to a smartphone or any other computer that the facilities people have access to. So it saves a lot of running around, saves a lot of troubleshooting time. You can really get a good sense of what's going on. Stop me at any time if you have any questions, please. This can be confusing, and a lot of this is actually redundant because it can be confusing. So other items, I'll say these are the boring things that kind of save energy, but you don't really see it. Building weatherization. There's a lot of areas in every building, especially of this age, that air leaks in and air leaks out, and it's very energy inefficient. So we'll go through the building and we'll seal the seams and doors and seams around windows where they need it, and above the ceiling where the wall meets the roof, there's always leaks up there. So all that will be sealed up tight, energy savings. Server room efficiency, your computer server room needs to be air conditioned to protect the equipment, and the way that room was originally built, there's places where the cold air leaks out and warm air leaks in, wastes energy. There's also some heating system stuff that runs through there. It doesn't have insulation on it, it's actually heating the room that has air conditioning, so we're going to resolve that one too.
Thank you.
Plug load controllers. That turns things off. It's another computer operated system. Things like copiers and printers. You're not using them at night. They're the vampire load. That stuff will be shut down. Steam valve redesign and replacement. I think there's a couple dozen classrooms that have steam heating valves that fail on a pretty regular basis. Costs a lot of money. Costs your facilities people a lot of time running around repairing them. They were never installed right, probably decades ago, and because they weren't installed right, they continue to fail. So as part of this project, we're going to replace all of them, but we're going to replace them in a manner that they probably should have been installed 20 years ago, and it'll eliminate, at least for the very near future, and the mid and long term, generally speaking, those valves will continue to operate without the regular failure that you're having now. Financials. Project cost is $1.327 million, and that will save you, and the guaranteed energy savings is $46,403. State Education Department will check our calculations, and they will verify that those numbers are right, and they will ensure that we meet that guarantee through the term of the project. Annual maintenance savings, $37,775. That comes from things like those condensing units that you keep putting money into when they fail each year, thousands of dollars in light bulbs and fluorescent ballasts that you need to change each year, those steam valves that fail, thousands of dollars a year. So all those savings will come from replacing that equipment that's currently failing. Now, it's required by SED that the energy savings and the maintenance savings pays for the entire project at $1.3 million over the term of the project. To encourage districts, the state wants school districts to do these projects, so to encourage the districts to do it, they know it's being paid for from the savings, but they'll still give you aid over the term of the project of $1.12 million into the district. It's money that the district can use as they see fit. And that's the part that you're voting on, the 10%, which is actually included in that $1.12 million. And if it came back a no vote, it would no longer be 1.12, it would be 10% less. That's the point of the public hearing tonight. I think that's back to you. Thank you.
So thank you, everybody, for tuning in with us tonight. Just keep in mind, just as Eugene and Brian said, it is really about the additional 10% aid. The board has already decided that this is a project that we're moving forward with, but we need your support to actually save the district even more money. December 15th, 2020 is the night or the day of the vote. The polls will be open 12 to 9 that day. I'll also be putting some flyers out in the post office and the library, just so that people can have hard copies of the presentation. Thank you, and if anybody has any questions, I know the chat room is being monitored, so if there's any questions.
Please. He said no, there's 2 people on it at the moment. Nobody's asking any questions yet. I checked with him.
All right, well, thank you. Appreciate you tuning in.